All right, I'm super excited to have Ben Dobson with me. Ben, you're the head of European Business Development at Dotsub. Dotsub. We're doing a digital marketing expert interview. You have a ton of really cool information to share with our audience today. I'm going to let you introduce yourself in a second, but you're going to talk to us about the emergence of subtitles as the MVP of video engagement, then how subtitles and transcripts improve video SEO, my field. So I'm excited to hear about that. And then we're going to take a look at what's coming next. With that said, my name is Chris Ralph. I'm the founder of Boulder SEO Marketing. Ben, I'm going to hand it over to you. It's all you, my friend.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Chris. It's a genuine pleasure to be here. As we kind of caught up before we started recording the call, you and I go back a couple of years, funnily enough, to where the skyline is there on my LinkedIn profile. We met at Brooklyn, where you won many plaudits for your talk about multilingual SEO.
That's right. Yeah, I did a presentation about international and multilingual SEO. That's right.
Yeah, so it's a genuine delight to be on the show and to talk about what seems to be a niche field, but I think as we run through it, it's actually something that really touches the lives of everybody. You know, video marketing is pretty much digital marketing's big MVP, and as you touched upon there, social media and the subtitles, the way it all plays together, the convergence of the three is something I wanted to touch upon today. Without further ado, as you've said, I'm currently working at Dotsub, a fantastic company to be at. They're based in Brooklyn. I'm here in South Wales in the UK, and I'm really developing the European territory for them and really enlightening people about the uses of subtitles. So before we delve into the crossover with SEO, I just wanted to give people, in case they're not up to speed, some of the different uses of subtitles. So growing up as a kid, I used to associate them with poorly dubbed, poorly subtitled Bruce Lee films, but they've come a long way, and it's all to do with digital marketing. 87% of digital marketers now view video as their weapon of choice. And invariably, since 2013, the biggest medium of consuming internet browsing, video as a whole, is actually on our mobile devices. We all consume things on the go. So it's when you consider these sort of abstract variables together where subtitles slowly start emerging. Most of us, when we're consuming video content, will be in an environment where it's not socially acceptable to put the volume on. Maybe we're in work, pretending that we're super busy on our laptops. So, yeah, exactly, yeah. So unless we have our headphones to hand, we're generally, invariably, going to scroll right past any video content that isn't subtitled. And Facebook tell us that 85% of all video content on Facebook is watched with the volume off. And I always view Facebook as a microcosm of the wider internet world. So that's something to bear in mind. So subtitles are a very cost-effective way of making sure that you increase engagement. And the return on investment, which is what anybody in marketing really cares about, is anything between a 12 to 40% increase in video views. So if you're somebody like you, Chris, who's built up a social media following in the thousands, maybe it's a football club, a soccer club, an NFL team that's got millions of fans and followers. If you can get 12 to 20% more views of your content, you know, that's a really tangible benefit. And then the other big thing that we kind of deal with is accessibility. So I've got a quick prezi I wanted to run through here. Let me just quickly scroll over.
Great.
No problem.
All right, yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we are, Dotsub. And so we're going to touch upon video SEO, but it's all about video engagement. And again, we're going to talk about localization, accessibility, engagement, and then SEO kind of overarches that. So let's talk a little bit about the why and the how. It seems a long time ago back right now, but in 2006, it was all about YouTube. They were first to the party, and it was really when sort of video marketing came to the fray. And it was basically you pop your video on YouTube, and then maybe you could embed it on your site, and away you went. It became a bit of an aggressive market then from a social media perspective when Facebook really started upping their game, and they stopped allowing YouTube embeds to play organically, and then they really started launching their autoplay videos. So as soon as you're scrolling down your timeline, it would autoplay by default. And then there was that juxtaposition between the YouTube content, which you'd have to click on. Then maybe it would bounce you out of the native app, which people really didn't like. And whatever Facebook did, Twitter soon followed. So then they also launched their own native video content. And again, they disavowed links with Instagram. Prior to that, Instagram used to embed their video content within a tweet. So again, you didn't have this clunky user experience of a blue HTML hyperlink to leave the platform. And yeah, Mashable tells us that if you're really into your video marketing and it's really important to you, if you natively post your video content across each platform, you're going to get 10 times more shares than if you just use a YouTube link. And we'll come back to why this is so important. And of course, we're in the midst of a video boom. So right now, 79% of all video content, consumer-driven video content, is driven by, consumer-driven web traffic is driven by video content. And Chris, we were speaking just before we came on the call, unbelievable stat, but apparently 300 hours of video content is uploaded every minute to YouTube.
It's crazy. So, I mean, it's really exploding, and it's getting so easy. I mean, look at us. We're recording a video that's going to be uploaded on YouTube in a few minutes, right?
Yeah, it's well, and something we were speaking about as well is you have to marketing, SEO, multilingual SEO, all these things, to be really successful at them. Yes, you have to be somebody like yourself who has the technical ability and the know-how, but you also have to be very aware of the world you live in. Millennials stand to be, I think from 2019, the most common demographic in the workforce. They're going to overtake baby boomers. So, and now millennials, the best way to engage with them is video content. So they very much drive absolutely everything. And yeah, as crazy as these stats are, there doesn't seem to be any end in sight. Video, the proliferation of video, it's a kind of an insatiable desire that we all have. We prefer to watch a 30-second video rather than read a paragraph of text, So,
we have 5 teenagers in the house here, and
okay.
And I mean, I had to get the strongest, internet connection because they all hang on their YouTube videos and Instagram, So yes, I mean, there's so much truth to what you're saying.
Yeah, and anecdotally, you're absolutely right. I had a little problem with the everybody streaming video content, which is why I found myself here in our local tech hub in Swansea using their 5G internet to make sure that this connection didn't slow down. But yeah, video, it's absolutely everywhere. So even though social media appears to be something completely abstract and separate to SEO, a lot of the same tricks, tips that people can adopt will apply. So there's a big crossover. So there are 2 types of subtitles. And we spoke about the autoplay videos. Well, they're muted by default. And as we touched upon, Facebook say that 85% of all video content on their site, which again is a great microcosm for the wider web, is watched with the volume off. So it's really important to have burned-in subtitles in this case because they boost engagement. And as Will Ferrell will tell you, everybody's doing it. So again, have to give a shout out to the Welsh team here, which is my national team.
They've got look at that.
Ah, good. Yeah, I'm talking to a soccer fan. Of course, you're European, Chris. Yeah. So Bill is a fellow compatriot, a Welshman. The world's biggest movie star there, Dwayne Johnson. Arnie, the Governator, he uses subtitles. And our beloved Prime Minister, Theresa May, she does it. And this stat is actually slightly off. It's 12 to 40% more views. Now, and as I said, that's such a huge stat if you take a moment to think about it. When you look back at some of the people here we've got, you know, like the social media following The Rock has, it's in the tens of millions. So for him to get 20% more views every time he puts subtitles on there, it's absolutely huge. And
Wow.
yeah, and this is kind of now where we're going to converge it into your world, Chris, because it's another thing about localizing content. And as I said, when you spoke at the gala event back in Brooklyn a couple of years ago, and I know you're still doing the circuit with LSPs, language service providers, whatever works well in one demographic, in one country, in one language, you know, with a bit of skill, a bit of nous, you can also duplicate that success elsewhere, and that's the true of subtitles. So here's a really interesting company, One Championship. They are Singapore's version of the, and they're really dominating the scene there in Asia, and it goes out to 136 countries. And again, they've got global fighters, a global audience. So for them, it's key, it's really important, as you can see from all the national flags there, that they need to localize their content for different markets. And there's no... Let's, there we go, we've got Conor McGregor there.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, you don't, when you think of MMA, he's synonymous with it, and just wanted to drop that video content in there to show you, you know, you've got an Irish guy there speaking English, but again, a huge Latin American sort of following as well. So there's been subtitles to localize that content.
Man, that's a great example. You know, I mean, it's really expensive to, you know, let's say if a movie is produced in English and recreated in, let's say, German, Spanish, whatever. I mean, this is definitely a great option to make that content available in another language, you know?
Yeah, and I think the thing is, Chris, you know, in an ideal world, yes, if money was no object, you know, maybe you'd throw money at dubbing, at voiceovers, but my argument would be, even if you had the choice, I think years ago, you're right, there was this, you know, cost-conscious, money-conscious decision, well, I'll go with subtitles because they're cheaper. But my argument would be, given the way that we consume content, a voiceover, you know, for me would be the secondary choice, because ultimately people aren't going to put the volume on. You know, people are choosing, as Facebook have shown us, 85% of the videos are watched with the volume off. So, and generally as well, the vast majority of content is consumed on your phone. So not only is it a cost-effective way to do it, but it's probably the way that you should focus on. And again, we'll continue to throw the reasons why. And as you know, Chris, being European, you know, there's so many languages here, and as a lot of people say, well, everybody can speak English, but there's a great quote by Nelson Mandela, you know, when you speak a man's language, you speak to his heart, and it's very true. 74% of customers, even if they can speak English, are more likely to complete a call to action in their native language, and that's what it's all about. Even though people can understand what's being said, unless you're localizing it, you're not really going to get the benefit from your content, from your video content.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that.
And again, and this is now interesting what we've done here. So everything I previously spoke about, there's a few different terms you can use for it. They're called open captions or burned-in captions, where they're essentially overlaid on the video and they become one and the same. It's a version of the video where the subtitles are permanently on. Now here's an example here for Ted Baker, the fashion brand that's based in the UK. Now this is a video that's hosted on YouTube. This is actually a screenshot of it, and the reason I've done that is to show you the different languages they've used for closed captions. And the only difference from the outside, if you like, from a in layman terms, would be the closed captions can be turned on and off, whereas again the burned-in captions, the open captions, are permanently on. And as you can see here, there are 8 languages in total that have been done here by Ted Baker for their target audience in their target demographic. Now, what Ted Baker chose to do is they posted one video on YouTube, and then they embedded this on their website, and then they had all of these different closed captions available. Now, one of the things that you and I spoke about, Chris, and this is probably why we're having this conversation, is when it comes to optimizing your video for search, moving away from social media, when you're looking at hosting it online, it's going to be embedded on your site, it's going to be on YouTube. If you're optimizing it for search, the only things that people really used to focus on were the title. So you'd have maybe the keywords that you were competing for in the title. You'd have it in the description. And if you were really clever and you were kind of a little bit ahead of the curve, you might put it in the tags. And that was kind of all you could run with. You know, you could hope that you had something like the Gangnam Style video with 1 billion views. But other than that, if you're waiting for your content to be discovered and you're going after a keyword strategy, it was the title, the description, and maybe the tags. But whatever actually was within that video content, the actual spoken word, as clever as Google is at indexing content, it can't understand pictures and it can't hear audio. Even though we see the the speech-to-text automation, it can't hear what's being said. So by adding these closed captions, which are the subtitles you can turn on and off, they're actually a text file. So this is where we cross right into your world. And that text file then is indexed accordingly by the bots that crawl the videos, and that is going to set you apart from the competition. And as we said, with 300 hours being published every minute, and all your competitors sort of saturating timeline, saturating YouTube, putting so much video content out there, this is a really good marginal gain for people to entertain. And again, if you're doing it in lots of different languages, this is where the SEO element comes in, because Chris, do you talk about transcreation a lot on your show?
Oh man, yeah, actually, well, I just came back from Amsterdam where I did a keynote at a conference, and
Yeah.
I mean, it was a localization translation conference, and yes, I mean, the main topic was transcreation. You know, you can't just translate those keywords, you actually have to transcreate them. So, for example, you know, when I first came to the US, that was 20 years ago, I was looking for a notel. What would that be? Any idea? A notel?
Is that yeah, a hotel?
It's a cell phone. It's the words that we use in Switzerland for cell phone.
Wow, gosh, over my head.
Yeah, people still use it when they buy a smartphone. So that's what I mean. You know, if you don't, you really have to transcreate the keyword, not just translate it. You have to use what's being used in that country, and that's a huge part of international multilingual SEO and also video, translation. Yeah,
there we go. That's a perfect example. Yeah, there's those nuances of dialect, and you can go to the nth degree. I'm from. There's a thing, we speak the same, English in the US and the UK. Mobile phone, cell phone, smartphone, and that's just one example. And yeah, you're absolutely right. There's so many idioms as well in the English language. The one I use over and over again is something that's said a lot in Wales. If somebody's looking stressed out or it seems like they're having a bad day, you say, oh, he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. But if you actually did a direct translation for that, into German, it wouldn't mean anything, because there's no cultural kind of reference there.
He hit it out of the ballpark. Here in the US, everybody knows what that means. In Switzerland, we don't play baseball.
Yeah, definitely.
Really important.
Yeah, and that's what, if you create your own closed captions, and I can't stress that enough, creating your own as opposed to what YouTube will do for you. And the reason I say that is, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of money being thrown at this speech-to-text automation that YouTube do, and I'm sure that the gap is going to close. But, some people throw around this stat that it's 97, 98% accurate. So what does that mean? Does that mean for every 100 words, they're going to be 2 wrong? Well, the average person speaks anything. I'm a particularly fast speaker, so the average person speaks anything between 130 to 150 words per minute. So if I speak for 10 minutes, there's a significant amount of words that can be wrong, and radically wrong, and then can completely change the meaning of the video. So if you get your subtitles professionally done, you have a chance then when you work with a professional like yourself, somebody that's done keyword research in each market to see what resonates with each demographic. That transcreation can come in, and all of a sudden you're really optimizing your video content for several different territories.
Well, also think about, I'm sure you're familiar with that, like the medical, pharmaceutical industry. A wrong word, can result into death or
damage. Oh my God.
Yeah,
exactly. Again, coming back to that stat, 98% accurate. So, if 2 words are wrong in every 100 and somebody's speaking, or it's a conversation where it's back and forth, you could be you could get things radically wrong. So yeah, I would never encourage anybody to go the automated route. It doesn't, and by YouTube's own admission, it's not where it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, if you're okay with low quality, I'm sure there's a market for that. If you need high quality, that's the way to go. That's how I see it.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it can tick a box. There's a lot of machine translation out there. There's a lot of automated sort of speech to text, and yeah, it can tick a box. But if you're conscious about your brand image, dealing with in a sector like medical or legal, it probably isn't worth the risk at this stage. Okay, so let's bounce around a little bit here. And the next thing is accessibility. But jumping around a bit here, Chris, but one of the big reasons that we're talking about video is it's, one of the reasons that Google will always give preference to a video as opposed to text when you do the initial searches. It's all about dwell time. Nothing will hold people's attention for longer than video. And ultimately, if you've got video content on your site, you're going to retain people for longer on your site. There's a stat that people are 80% more likely to complete a call to action. So then Google will be tracking that as well. So a video plays such a big role in this. So that's worth considering. Yeah, and then accessibility. So 6 to 12% of the world's population, according to the World Health Organization, identify themselves as being either hearing impaired or actually profoundly deaf. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but you scale that up over the world's population. That's an awful lot of people who might not be able to access your content. And here's a little breakdown. It's a bit grainy, I'm afraid, at this screen cap here, but this is the worldwide deafness in millions. And as we can see, there's over 300 million people in Asia who are suffering from deafness. Yeah, and when you think of the Asian market and how people are looking at commercial opportunities there, and the analogy I use is in the UK we've got building regulations. If the building I'm in today, where I'm using this facility, when I came in up the steps, alongside me there was a ramp, quite rightly, for anybody that had a disability to have access. And I think a lot of these real world values that we have, they quite rightly need to be pulled into the digital world as well. So anything that we're doing online, particularly with our video content, we should be making that accessible as well to the hard of hearing and the deaf. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, before I get into the how of how we do it as a company, is there anything you wanted to ask me there, Chris, so far with what we've run through?
No, it's pretty clear. We're going to be pressed a little bit on time.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, so to bring it back to SEO here, we touched upon how it's really important to get text somewhere within that video context. So yes, absolutely, have a keyword in your title, have a keyword in the description, go that way. But if you are creating a transcript or you're creating the closed captions, that's a great way to have it indexed by Google, and that's going to allow you to sort of shoot up the search engines by making sure that you've got those keywords in the closed captions. Now, there are different ways to do this. You can embed the video on your site and then have the transcript on the page. A lot of people have done that. It's been very successful for a long time because, again, that's been indexed by Google. And what you can do as well is if there are keywords within your transcript, within your closed captions that refer to other pages on your website, really good to do some inner site SEO, link into content that way. But increasingly, people are starting to embed or rather hide the transcript as part of the metadata. So putting it in the no read tags or the body in between there. So to the naked eye, people aren't reading the transcript, but again, it's being crawled by Google. Now, this is a personal preference. It's totally up to you. There are a lot of providers out there that will give you just have to Google it really to see how you do it yourself, or you can work with a company that will allow you to do that. So yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell, without really wanting to flog a dead horse, to use another idiom. It's hugely important to add subtitles to content, because 85% is muted by default. It increases views by as much as 40%, and Google, as we all know, it prioritizes video for search. And if you're there and you're in that saturated market where we're seeing all these hours and hours being published every day, how can you give yourself a marginal gain, a marginal advantage ahead of the pack? It is by adding closed captions. And then, Chris, in your world, the multilingual SEO, by localizing all of that content for different markets, by translating and transcreating those closed captions, you're giving yourself a really good chance to dominate internationally.
Absolutely. No, and I mean, with the content explosion and video creation, I mean, this is really how you're going to separate yourself from, the pack. Absolutely. So real quick, 2 minutes, what's next? What are we going to see in the future?
Yeah, so a very exciting area for us, Chris, is we spoke about video content. Now, again, coming back to Facebook, we're seeing an awful lot of streaming content coming out there now. People are 3 times more likely to watch streamed content than preloaded video content that's been posted. So, and sport has been a big part of this presentation that you've seen, and that's because that's the one thing in life that we will not tolerate to watch on demand. We won't watch it on a box set of sport. We need to watch it live. So all of those same challenges that we spoke about consuming it on our mobile, they still exist. We might be watching a soccer match, an NFL game on our mobile phones, on our devices, but again, we might be in an environment where we don't want to put the volume on. So live captioning, actual real-time live captioning is what's coming next. That's the really big thing in the industry. And yeah, and it's fantastic to be at a company like Dotsub, as we're really pioneering a workflow. We're working with a couple of enterprises, Yahoo at the moment. They post finance updates 4 times a day. Yahoo Finance updates, their video updates are in real time. And what we've got are live captions in 4 different languages, and the technology behind it is crazy. There's speech-to-text recognition, but there's a human being element to it that refines that and manages to pop it out in 4 languages at the same time. So yeah, that's the big, exciting what's coming next, Chris.
Very cool, man. How do people get in touch with you? Do you want to show your LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Let me go back here. So yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. It's a great place to be. Again, similarly to what you do about breaking down language barriers, LinkedIn is fantastic for us to break down geographical barriers. So even though I'm in Europe and I'm operating within this territory, a lot of our clients, particularly the sport end, digital publishers in the sports world, I deal with them globally. So yeah, please hit me up on LinkedIn. I'd be delighted to engage with your followers there, Chris.
And I'll add the website, the blog post that we'll build around this this interview. And Ben, I had a blast. I got to rock and roll here. Hopefully I'll see you next month when I'm in London teaching a workshop there. And let's keep in touch. Thanks again for your time. Really great information. Maybe let's do this again sometime soon. And yeah, thanks everybody for watching. And look out for the next interview. All right. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Chris. Pleasure. Thanks, everyone.